I seek refuge with Allah from the accursed devil. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Blessings be upon Muhammad and his pure family. We continue with the topic of emotional intelligence. This class is the 7th class. In the previous class, we explained the relationship between emotions and thought. We have said that when we want something, we are going to believe in what we want. What does it mean? We are going to have conclusions with the tendency towards what we want. So, we are going to have a connection between what we believe and what we want. We are going to have a connection between what we do not want and what we do not want. What does that mean? Human beings are emotional and affective beings. So when these emotions are stronger, they influence their way of thinking and their perspective on the world. When he hates something, he will do everything possible to use his intellect to justify what he hates. When someone loves something, they will use their intellect and do everything possible to think of ways to justify what they love. So we have said that generally humans, instead of taking intellect as the guide, as the path, use it as an instrument, and this is quite dangerous. It means seeing the intellect as a tool to indeed truly pave the way for lust, to open and facilitate the path of ambitions. So, the human being, for example, in the West, finds that what gives me pleasure makes sense because I like a person for being. For example, we do not agree that a person can be gay. We cannot say that a person who has fallen is experiencing spiritual and moral decay, that they have fallen into an abominable tendency, as the Bible says in Leviticus 18:22, into an abominable practice, into a vice. Then he will do everything possible to use intellect as a tool to justify his sin. Very well. Since we have understood the relationship between emotions and intellect, especially in people who do not have developed emotional intelligence, let's move on to the next step. Look, brothers, we can divide emotional intelligence into two: a personal skill and a communicative skill. Listen to me carefully. A personal skill, a social communicative skill. What does it mean? Once I use my emotional intelligence to understand myself, to know my emotions, and to think about how emotions affect me, what the main causes of my emotions are, my emotional state, what things make me angry, what things I like, how to control my mood, how to control my motivations, how to help myself to reach a state of mind based on my purposes, in service of my purposes, because I seek to achieve my goals, what I am looking for. So that is a personal skill. I use and develop my personal skill, which is emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is partly a personal skill, and we can develop it through practice by getting to know ourselves and controlling ourselves. So when I get irritated, I stay quiet, I don't speak. This person who, as soon as they get irritated, starts to talk, uses profanity and insults, is a weak person whose emotions control their body, whose emotions control their behavior. They cannot manage their behavior. When they are happy, they say everything and cross boundaries. And when they are angry, they also cross boundaries. That person is doomed to fail. That person is destined to lose. That person is condemned to be unhappy. Well, then we in that personal aspect need to control our emotions. But I want to make an observation to you. Look, brother, our anger is gradual. If a person is angry 10%, 20%, 30%, 50%, 100%, 30%, 50%, 100%, 1,000. Irritated. Imagine when he is 100% irritated. His heart beats faster. His muscles are ready to do something impulsive. He can no longer think clearly. He is very aggressive. When they are, for example, 100%, breathing very heavily because they are very angry, very irritated, in that emotional state where adrenaline is flooding the body. So this person is like a volcano about to erupt. That strong volcano now wants to explode, and in an instant it will erupt. I ask you, is it possible to control ourselves when we are already 100% angry? Is the answer practically that it is quite difficult. So how can we control ourselves? I mean, how can intellect dominate these emotions? We are talking about a skill, about a personal skill. How can I control my state of anger? How can I control my lust, my ambition, etc.? Because they are gradual. So the answer is as follows. Listen carefully. A person who has developed emotional intelligence does not allow themselves to fall into anger. This means they will uproot their emotions from their very source. They will study themselves, and they will not allow themselves to fall into such strong irritation, because they know that when they reach that point, they can no longer control themselves. So control the main factors that are going to irritate you. For example, if my son is going to break my car, he is going to break a glass. I am going to get irritated. Why do I get irritated? Because I care about this glass, because I think it is very important. So through two factors, I can control my anger. First, not to give so much importance to a glass, not to give so much importance to my car. If it breaks, I don't care, so I don't get irritated. Or helping my son, not to do it, means I am going to educate my son so that he does not break the car or break the glass. Then it can be controlled. The factors that can cause my anger are partly internal, due to my attachment to worldly things. That attachment, when it is stronger, when you lose it, this material thing irritates you more, angers you more, disappoints you more. The less tendency I have towards this material thing, the fewer emotions I feel when I lose or gain it. In Islam, this is called zod, which means reducing worldly attachment and diminishing the tendency towards material things. When I would reduce this attachment, this love for material things, just as the narratives say, love for the mundane is the main cause of all that is wrong. It is the main cause of all failures. So when I reduce this love for worldly things, then I can control my anger. I can control my disappointment. Why does a person feel so disappointed when they lose their job? Why does he have a belief? He believes that he is self-sustaining. Where does my sustenance come from? It does not come from God, it comes from my side. 2001 Moshrik. That belief is a belief that comes from him, placing himself in the position of God. Who is your sustainer? God. When you think this way, if you lose your job, God is the one who continues to provide for me, so I won't be so disappointed, because I think, look, who is in charge of providing for me? God. So I am going to look for another job. I am going to fight again. I am going to get back up, so I won't be so disappointed. So, one of the things that can help us control our emotions is beliefs. In part, belief can help us control our emotional state. In another part, the physical factors, we have said that in things outside, in the real world, we can control some factors so that bad or unpleasant things do not happen to us, which could, we can say, disrupt our lives and prevent us from falling into a state of distress. But generally, 2009, there is a very clear difference between us in the Islamic view of emotional intelligence and the Western view of emotional intelligence. Generally, in the West, what they seek is to control physical factors to be in the best emotional state. It means I'm going to give you insurance, I'm going to give you this, we are going to build the houses in the best way, car, well-being, everything material. By controlling the factors, we can say mundane materials so that this person is less affected, ensuring they have food, a guaranteed salary, and a secure job. This way, that person does not get angry, does not feel disappointed, and maintains good physical health. Therefore, while they are in the best state, in the best situation, and under the best circumstances, negative emotions do not dominate them. But it has not uprooted the cause, meaning this person remains attached to worldly things. When they lose something, that loss will cause them much disappointment, much anger, and many negative feelings. For example, in the West, if someone loses their job because they are very dependent, that worldly education makes that person suffer quite a bit. In other words, they already think that everything is over. But in the East, in the Islamic world, if one loses their job, God is my sustainer. I don't care. He won't be so disappointed. So in the West, a person's emotions can lead that person, after losing their job, to even suicide, or to violence, or to a lot of negative things. Why? Because that education, which supposedly aims to develop emotional intelligence by controlling external factors, is doomed to failure. Why? Because in the real world, what happens is that external factors are practically uncontrollable. We are not against material well-being. That is fine, but it is not everything. In the East, in Islam, we learn the main reason to control emotions. One thing is called patience. Patience is the head of faith. Therefore, we are going to learn patience in the face of sins, which means having an attachment to sin. Patience helps you to save yourself. It means that when I find the moment, when my emotions provoke me, they indicate me towards sin through patience. I will hold myself back, so I will not fall into sin. That is the development of emotional intelligence, internally, through faith, through belief. So when I encounter a situation where I can pursue my ambition by seeking more and more, receiving a bribe, engaging in usury, abusing power, once again, patience comes. My help, I will resist with patience. So, through a strong belief, which is faith in God. I will develop my emotional intelligence by controlling negative emotions. I will not allow negative emotions to lead me into sin, and that is the most important thing. In Islam, this is called tazkiyah, which means purification of the soul, or more precisely, purification of intentions. I do not allow emotions to decide for me. I will decide for myself. Who am I? The intellect. It means I do not allow emotions, ambitions, or lust to make decisions for me. No, the decisive factor in my life is intellect, logic. Before entering a job, in an act, I will always think about the consequences, about the possible consequences. If I get into that, what are the consequences that I will face? And step by step, I will understand that I will not enter into that sin. I will not engage in this. So I control myself. So the believer, a true believer, not hypocrites, be careful. Many times we pretend to be what we are not. Islam is not just a word. True Islam, which becomes a faith, is when you consider God Almighty. When a person takes God as all-powerful, they act differently. Imagine you consider a police officer with power, so you are not going to break the law. Now, the police are there in front of the traffic light. You are not going to go through the traffic light when it is red. Why? Because the police are considered to have power. When you have God as the Almighty, who is always present, you would not dare to commit sin. But we do not even consider, nor do we even give importance to a baby, to God. When a child is here next to you, your nephew is there next to your computer, and you are not going to go into porn, you send, oh look, he is looking at me. Does it mean that I will give more importance to a child than to God? The importance of God does not matter to me. So I am not a believer, I am a fraud. I pretend to be what I am not. I do not believe in God. That is what makes us suffer. It's not that believers suffer, no, because I'm not a believer, that's why I suffer, and because I don't consider the Almighty to support me. No, I'm just saying, so many times that faith that is only on the tongue and has never reached the heart can never save me. Yes, in believers, in the prophets, emotions cannot affect them. They are strong. And you will see the prophets in the worst emotional state, surrounded by enemies, betrayed by their own companions. The prophets remain strong, meaning they do not get discouraged. They can control negative emotions and continue to fight. They are the ones who control their own emotion and the emotion of others. So they are strong leaders with character, with charisma. These leaders, why does he have that charisma? Because intellect decides how to manage emotions. It's not that emotions decide for him. So they will indeed have success. In the next class, we will talk about that skill of emotional intelligence. But in another aspect, as a social skill, in communications, in leadership, how emotional intelligence can help me, how it can facilitate my path. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.